Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Welcome back to another exciting and mind-blowing episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better. And today we're diving into the world of transformational online education with a guest who has dedicated her life to helping creative experts and entrepreneurs teach in impactful and innovative ways. Today's guest is the founder and CEO of Learn and Get Smarter, where she guides outside the box thinkers, those quite founders of momentum, on how to create online courses that are truly making a difference. With a BA from Harvard, Harvard, a small little school, you may not have heard of it, and 2 master's degrees in education. She's an educator at heart with decades of experience. Her research-based course design formula is a game changer, helping entrepreneurs craft anything from single workshops to entire online academia. Can you believe that? The whole schools they're creating here, all while ensuring a top-notch learning experience for their students, making sure those students graduate and are able to achieve. She's also the author of a little book you may have heard, Course Design Formula: How to Teach Anything to Anyone Online, which is a must-read for anyone who is serious about mastering the art of teaching online. So get ready to be inspired and equipped with the knowledge. Turn your expertise into transformational learning experiences as we welcome the brilliant Rebecca to the podcast. Rebecca, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Phil. I'm so excited to talk with you and your audience.
I'm over the moon. When we first met to talk about you coming on the podcast, you blew me away with everything. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. I was like clapping my hands afterwards. I was like a little child, giddy. So I'm very excited to have you here. I know the audience is going to take away a lot of stuff, but I have to start with my first question, like always. Why was it that you wanted to become an entrepreneur? You got a BA, you got teaching, you could have gone into education and just had the fun time of being a teacher, but you decided to become an entrepreneur. Why is that?
So that's such a great question, Phil. And, I had a wonderful job that I absolutely loved, 2 wonderful jobs as the education coordinator for several public utilities here in Southern California. And I just loved doing that for 15 years. And then I was ready to grow and take the next step. And I actually had an international fellowship, several, to study overseas. And I wanted to be the kind of international water and energy education person, And what I discovered was actually, first of all, that what we are already doing here in Southern California is actually the best in the world. I couldn't find anything better than what we already had. So I needed to grow. And I was actually required by the terms of my fellowship to get a federal job when I got back. But I applied for 45 federal jobs, and I came back qualified at GS-14, GS-50, but there was always 200 people in line ahead of me, and people who lived in Washington and people who were younger, and what I discovered, I was, I know it's hard to believe because I'm 29, right? But, I'm really bad at math, so bear with me. I was actually around 58 at that time. And what I discovered, which I hadn't known, was that contrary to what I thought, which was everyone would snap me up because of my experience, people just don't hire you very often at that age. Not just me, all my friends, super qualified in all sorts of things, when they tried to take that, let me reinvent myself for the next stage of my life, new job, all ended up having to start their own business or, because it's just, even younger people are having trouble getting jobs now. So I founded my business in 2015, and I didn't know exactly what I would be doing. I knew that it would have something to do with education. And at first I thought I would be like this character that I invented, Mother Rebecca, who is me if I were 200 years old and actually knew everything. Mother Rebecca is my fictional Victorian alter ego. I'm holding up my Mother Rebecca book, which is
I love it.
Hello World, Meet Mother Rebecca. And so I thought I would be kind of like a Dear Abby, giving wise advice. And people love Mother Rebecca. But what I discovered is nobody really asks questions. I mean, if I show up and make purple potatoes, or something, everyone will watch. But in terms of having a real business, like I don't think being like a lifestyle blogger was really the heart of what I was here to do. So when I thought about, well, what can I practically teach that people need to learn, I realized it was, how to teach anything to anyone online, which is what I had wanted to do for the title of my master's project. My very wise advisor said, they're not going to let you do that because it's really that's too broad. So I had to focus and do something much narrower, which actually was perfect. That's actually one of the secrets. I call it the magic's in the meatball. Like, don't serve a whole cow, serve a meatball, So when you find the small little thing that really has the leverage, that's where everything opens up from there. So I was like, okay, this is my business. If I want to say how to teach anything to anyone online, I can. So I wrote my book in 2019, and that has been really one of the best things I did. It sold over 10,000 copies so far. The other day, it was briefly, because Amazon changes every hour, briefly #1 in distance and online learning. I grabbed the screenshot, on Amazon. And what I love about the book is that it's a easy way for people to learn the big ideas about what makes for effective online learning. What happened, Phil, was that I wanted to take my in-person program when I was working for, public utilities and put it online. And I discovered it's not a simple translation. You can't just digitize something that works in the real world and make it work well, in the digital space. I mean, as you know, you're a podcast host. I mean, you do things that are very exciting for the podcast space. That's different than having a private conversation or, probably different than TV. So when I discovered sort of what I call the minimum viable learning design for there's lots of things you could do, and there's lots of things that, professional instructional designers do. But what does someone who wants to be a solopreneur, have their own business, someone like me who wants to reinvent themselves for the third stage of their life and share their wisdom and have a business based on that, maybe in retirement or as a supplemental form of income, or to create a legacy or to inspire the next generations, how can they take what's in their head and get it into someone else's head for money? Now money is not my main motivator. Of course, we all need money, but I'm really focused on how can they do it in a way that creates impact. That so many online courses today aren't creating impact because people don't understand they need to be designed. Again, same problem I had. You can't just take something and digitize it, put it online, and think people will learn from it. That's just exposing people to information. That's not teaching. So, I could go on, so you might want to stop me before.
No, I love it, Rebecca, because it is true. I've taken a few online courses and they feel like info dumps. It's just the person telling you exactly what they're doing, and they're not teaching. And like, I go harken back to like when I was in, grade school and learning math, and the teacher setting everything out so that the student can learn and understand, oh, this is why this connects over here. And I love that someone has come in and has upended the game, if you will, of online education, because right now it's just info dumps. There are a few people who are like, I'm more concerned about getting my people to finish the course, my students, if you will, to finish the course so that they actually understand. And I love those people. I love what you're doing, because if you put you two together, magic's going to happen. The course is going to fly off the wall. But I want to know, how did you come up with the full course design formulas? Like, how did you discover like this was the solution to the problem of just digitizing information?
That is a fabulous question. So it took about 10 years. I discovered what works by doing all the things that don't work, which interestingly enough is actually the way you design a mindset change program. You first get clarity on, okay, we could do all these things, but they're not going to work. Now let's discover what could work better. And so I tried all the things good teachers do in classrooms. Oh, let me create an online scavenger hunt, and what I discovered is I was doing my project. Well, the real heart of how I discovered it was I had to switch from something that I knew a lot about. I had a lot of prior knowledge, which was my in-person education program that I was doing. And long story short, through a lot of reasons, I ended up changing my topic to something I knew nothing about. And that ended up being the key, because what everyone does, and I know not everyone can see me, but I'm holding up this gem. It's not real. I got it at Michael's, but it looks like a beautiful gem. So this is your gems of content. And every expert is very attached to their gems of content because it's very valuable. But if you can't start from your content as a way of designing your online learning, you have to create a crown to hold the gems. And the crown is a structure. And what happened was, because I had no subject matter knowledge on my new topic that I was doing for my master's degree, I couldn't rely on it. And that forced me, and I still was getting it wrong. I still was trying all the wrong things. And I was doing something about Turkish grammar. I don't speak Turkish to this day. I don't speak Turkish. Okay. No subject matter knowledge. And that's why I was intrigued to do it. I was like, well, how does this language work? It doesn't follow the rules of other languages that I know, or other language families that I know. So I was doing something called Turkish vowel harmony, which is how Turkish puts words together. And I thought, how do I explain this to people? And I'd heard about the front vowels and the back vowels. And I was making up these elaborate PowerPoints of these vowels are in the front. They're dancing with the other vowels that are in the back. And it was ludicrous. It's so funny. I show it to my students as a here's what not to do example. I didn't know what front vowels and back vowels referred to. And then one day I accidentally came across an MRI of people speaking Turkish and showing when they speak the front vowels, their tongues are in the front of their mouth. When they speak the back vowels, their tongues are in the back of their mouth. I said, oh, that's what that refers to. So my aha moment, and I have a light bulb that I hold up, my light bulb meter for an aha moment.
I love the light bulb, by the way. It is all multiple colors. It's not just a simple light bulb. It's an entrepreneurial disco ball of light bulbs. I love it.
Everybody loves it. This is actually a baby's toy, but my students who are advanced experts love this because it's a visual representation of that light bulb moment, which was that if you're trying to teach a skill, I was trying to teach, how to put words together in Turkish. You have to make sure people understand the big ideas that are part of performing this skill. And in Turkish vowel harmony, which is how Turkish puts words together, the idea of the front vowels, which is like, I hope I don't get it wrong, but like, the back vowels are like A and U, and the front vowels are like E and I. And Turkish sticks words together based on like a good word in English, in Turkish would be, I'm making up a fake word, gaga goo goo, which is nonsense in English. Something like that would follow the rules of Turkish vowel harmony because it sticks the vowels together based on they're all back or they're all front. So that concept and the idea of where the tongue was the aha moment. And what I extrapolated from it was, you've got to understand the big ideas and define them. And I was using the research of a wonderful, wonderful genius educational researcher named Robert M. Gagne. A lot of people have heard of him, others haven't, but he's mind-boggling. And his research was the key, because he said, if you're teaching a skill, you got to do it this way. But if you're teaching mindset change, you got to do it a different way. Or if you're teaching movement, you've got to do it a different way. He came up with the discovery that there were 5 big different areas of learning depending on the transformation you want someone to achieve. And that was the key. And it's still been the key. I've spent 10 years now working with hundreds of experts. And, I started interviewing people and doing free strategy sessions and helping them design their stuff. And I realized this methodology based on Gagne's research worked for everyone. It didn't matter what their topic was. And so I wrote my book once and that's only part of what, I talk about how you structure your course, how to create an effective lesson, and also how to make sure it's highly engaging and motivating for your target audience. Those are the 3 big areas that I focus on. But the real key is starting from the transformation you want your course to deliver. How do you want people to be different? as a direct result of taking a course. And case in point, I have a very dear friend who was moving to Turkey, who took my course. She's the only person who's actually gone through my master's degree course that I graded, and she speaks fluent Turkish. Now I didn't, obviously she did a lot of things to learn that, but I gave her the foundation. My course gave the foundation of how does this language work, and so I'm pretty excited about producing transformation. That's what, like you said earlier, a lot of when people teach, they think, oh, let me just take what's in my head and dump it onto the web, or, that's not teaching. Teaching is helping people change their lives. And we use what we know to do that. But it's not just the subject matter knowledge. You also need learning design. You need to understand how people learn, like your math teacher did, because she was a professional educator. Don't get me started, Phil, because educators do not get the respect they deserve. They don't get the money they deserve. Teachers are leaving in droves. I'm very upset about all of that.
If I'll jump in here. I think there's two types of teachers, quote unquote. You have the ones who are there for they had the passion, and unfortunately, because of politics, which we're not going to touch on, they lost the passion. It fizzled out, and they're just there because it's a job. But then you have what I like to call the facilitators of education. Those are the ones who are still like I would consider you a facilitator of education, because your goal is to make sure that your student understands and can achieve what they want to, whether it's an entrepreneur or it's a 10-year-old in math class. You're looking to make sure that this individual that you're helping will be able to achieve the goals that they want, just like you helped your friend without any knowledge of Turkish, how to speak the language. You helped her develop the skills necessary to understand her other courses that she's taking to learn, so that she can 10x her learning. And I think teachers who are passionate, the facilitators of education, they should be getting the salaries that the NBA players personally should be paid,
100%,
or at least very, very close to those levels. Maybe not the $150 million, because I think that's kind of absurd for anybody to be paid. However, in today's society, it's a great salary. I think they should be taken care of far better, because without them, we're not going to have good workers. If we just look at it as workers in the pure capitalist world, we need great workers who can think outside the box. And if we don't have great educators, we won't have those great workers. So I think what you're doing is going to change the game, and I love what you're doing. And I think teachers should be paid more. And I'm loving how you are showcasing to teachers how they can take their knowledge and make some extra dollar bills for them, so that they don't have to generally leave the profession. They can make that supplemental income. But I just love what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Phil. And, it's interesting. A lot of my students and clients don't think of themselves as teachers. In fact, that was some of the first market research I did. People said, don't refer to this as teaching or students, because I think of that as a school, right? So that's why I tend to say course participants, or, creative experts and entrepreneurs. But it is teaching, and we have mistakenly narrowed down teaching to think it's only what happens in school. So what is teaching? And well, first you have to ask, what is learning? Learning, I'm using Gagne's definitions because I find them very helpful. Gagne said that define learning as permanent observable behavior change. So let's say you've got a mindset change program, and you want people to change their mindset from, I love being a couch potato, to I'm going to get up every day and, train for a marathon. Right. So I can't prove to you that I've changed my mindset by telling you. I have to show you by actually getting up every day consistently over a long period of time. Just do it for a week is not enough either, because I could, backslide, right? Which is why when you do mindset change, you have to help people get in touch with an immediate motivation that'll sort of give them a quick win, and a long-term motivation that'll keep them in it for the long term. So if learning means changing our behavior permanently in a positive direction, what is teaching? So Gagne defined teaching as, there's a quote, arranging a series of events, which I think is such a lovely and interesting way to look at it, that promotes learning. So that arranging a series of events that promotes and leads to permanent positive behavior change. that's observable. So arranging a series of events takes skill. I mean, imagine if you were an event organizer, right? You'd have
Ugh.
to do a lot of things to make that happen. So that's basically what I help people do, is understand what's the permanent change they want to help people achieve, and what are the events they need to arrange, in which order and in which manner to make that happen. So real teaching is a very active, transformational activity that requires a lot of design skill. And that's the mindset change that I promote, is understanding that online learning especially needs to be designed, because all of these, don't get me started on the whole make six figures while you
No.
sleep without knowing anything about anything. No problem. You want to make six figures while you sleep, fine, great. But in order to do that, you're going to have to do a lot of work while you're awake. You're probably not going to sleep that much. You really need a passion, and you need skill, and you need training in order to understand what it takes to get people to those, types of transformation. And I think, honestly, Phil, the reason a lot of people don't complain about some of these information dump courses, not everyone wants to change. In other words, sometimes, it's like, I've done it. We buy a Nordic track and we put it under the bed, Hey, I bought a Nordic track.
Don't be calling me out like that. That's not fair.
You and everyone else on the plane, we all do it, right? But when people really want to change, then they need, a guide and a structure that's going to get them from point A, which is where they're starting, to point B, which is where they want to go. And a course is really the steps you design between point A and point B that will really get them to that destination.
I love it. I have two questions I kind of want to ask you at the same time, but we're going to go with one that's a bit more, I feel has more meat to it. Since you've worked with countless experts and helping them turn their knowledge into actual impactful courses so that they're teaching, if you will, I want to look back, and is there a particular possible client success that made you realize how impactful your work was doing?
Well, yeah. And, on my website, I actually have a results page, and I'm so proud of my students and my clients. And I'd love for people to, learn about all my, well, I don't have all my clients on there, but the ones that I've had a chance to have case studies and interviews with. But one of my clients, achieved great results in their own expertise. But the thing that was really, I think, did what you're asking me about, was they told me that one of their students came to them and said their student got the same result, the same very positive result, out of applying what my client had set up to teach in their school, and got a positive result. My client's student got that result. And to me, that's the key. It's like, that's how I know that my program's working. Not only that my clients are succeeding, but that their students are getting very positive results, coming back and giving feedback. Hey, I got this fabulous result, telling all their friends, so that, your course starts to kind of sell itself on autopilot. So that, to me, is, and I honestly, I can say that's been for more than one of my clients. So
I love that. That is pure success. Like, yes, my client got success, yay. But when it goes down that they took your formula and put their knowledge into it,
right,
caused their people that they wanted to help to have the same level of success, that is just guaranteed proof in the pudding, that you know what you're doing, and you're creating worlds, you're creating educational institutions that are changing. I think I personally, and most entrepreneurs, I feel, have the same thing, that education, you never stop learning. You're constantly learning, because we're very curious beings. We want to solve problems, and you throw in creativity, and then it's like on steroids, pretty much. But I want to know, we're going to take it back to something simple. Because investing in yourself as a general, because that's what entrepreneurs do to become better versions of ourselves. We need to invest, take courses, read books, go on long hikes. I would love to know, what do you do to get into that mode of investing in yourself, and how do you invest in yourself?
Well, that's such a great question, Phil. And, I think many people, probably your listeners as well, in this space, are naturally lifelong learners. And, we really have to be, if we want to, be in this online entrepreneurial space. I mean, my background was in education, not in business. So, I've learned from many amazing communities and organizations. I could call out Miracy, Danny Innes Miracy. I could call out Amy Porterfield. I could call out Digital Marketer with Ryan Dice, fabulous trainings. I attended the travel and traffic and conversion conference that Digital Marketer does in, I think it was around 2017 that I went in San Diego. I live in Southern California, so it was just a short drive. And I was very inspired by, Ryan and all the other speakers that they had there. Met some amazing people. So I think that community is the best way to invest in yourself, whether it's participating in other people's communities where they're teaching or creating your own community. That's the other thing is I created my own community starting in at the beginning of the pandemic on Saturdays. I have a free meet. It's free. It's open to the public. And we've had over 260 people come through there every week, just talking about, their journey as an educator, as an entrepreneur. And we've built up this tremendous repository of expertise. It's like a think tank or a community of purpose for transformational online learning because everyone brings their own expertise. So, we've learned a lot about systems thinking and the Cynefin framework and language and behavior profile from Shelley Rose Charvet. So, I think that, the people in your community have so much to offer themselves, each other, you as an educator, and as an entrepreneur. So this is an ongoing, I think just really one word community would be the word, whether joining other people's communities or building my own. And I'm so grateful for that. During the pandemic, I would have just been, an older lady sitting by herself in her apartment, but instead I was always at international meetings with fabulous world-changing thought leaders, and how much fun was that, so we really, that's the other thing I want to say is that the people that are attracted to this work are truly innovators. We realized that on the very first day of my first, pilot version of my master course, when people introduced themselves, I was like, everybody here is like an outside the box thinking genius, but they're very modest, that's why I call them the quiet founders of movement. And, but if you're trying to fit in, the story of the ugly duck, right? The ugly duckling. If you're trying to fit in and you don't fit in, you're going to think there's something wrong with you. But actually, you're a beautiful swan. And that, I think, is probably the answer to your entrepreneurship question. I think most entrepreneurs are people who don't fit in to what exists, so they have to go out and create something new. They're solving problems that there's no solution to yet, which is very exciting. And I had a very wise teacher years ago who said, she was like a meditation teacher, but she said, when you get your service activity, which obviously what I'm doing is my service aside from being my business, right? It's not like you're handed the keys to a franchise and you can just go follow the rules. You're not running a McDonald's franchise. You're McDonald. In other words, you're the one that has to go figure out this new business structure that's going to make a space in the economic system for this work that we're doing. And, that's the part I'm working on now, is not just the course design formula, but the course business design formula that, of course we have to learn from what everyone else has done. But what I find is the other models don't work for me because I'm doing something different. So that's what I'm up to now. I'm sort of in the same stage of exploration for the course business design formula that I originally was for the course design formula, seeing what model could work for. I'm in the process of talking to about 100 entrepreneurs as part of my research for a wonderful course I'm taking, part of how I invest in myself, and asking them, what does teaching and learning mean for you in your business? And I'm just asking questions. I'm not, trying to sell anything. So, if anybody wants to talk to me, it's like a 15-minute interview. I'm loving what I'm hearing from people. And it's so different how different people use teaching or don't use it in their business. So I'm really just curious now in this landscape today, what role does this play? Because the whole landscape of both business and education is changing, and we're changing it. We're the leading edge of the global teaching group. So we get to decide what's going to be, but we want to make sure that it's going to really serve humanity the best way. So that's where we're up to. We're just exploring.
You just dropped another question into my mind. I wasn't expecting this question to pop in, but Given that you are diving headfirst into this new area, which is the online education industry, we saw how important it was for um, traditional education, the traditional education in industry, when COVID hit, that they had to go online and they were having massive amounts of problems, because kids, we're social beings, kids need to interact, and that's how we've been doing education so far. And obviously, with the advent of the internet and how we become a pretty much a global community, you're at the forefront of the online industry, and it's obviously grown tremendously since the pandemic and post pandemic. But what are you seeing as the next big innovation or like shift coming in this still evolving industry? Because for me, it's very interesting because it's now allowing us to have access to teachers, and I'm going to use the traditional model, teachers across the world that are levels above what we have access to, let's say
Mm,
just in North America, right?
sure.
Because there's 8 billion of us around the planet. I believe we're about 8 billion. Well, I'll just say we're 8 billion. And everybody has a different level of expertise, a level of knowledge when it comes to a certain subject. And so if we take a math teacher in Kenya, could be far superior than any math teacher for North America. And now we have this opportunity for this math teacher to teach. Where do you see this online world going when it comes to education, and what are you doing to maybe push it towards a more sustainable framework? Because I know a lot of people want to go back to the old school in class, but we've changed. Like once you've tasted a bit of being able to sit in your boxers watching a getting taught, like I don't know about getting dressed and going to school. That commute, whoo.
That's such a great question, Phil. I love the question. So, yeah, and I think you're absolutely right that, the game has changed, and even when people try to go back, it doesn't work. So what I think there's a concept, it's not a new concept, but I think it really applies here. It's called constructivism in the online learning space. And constructivism means that learners can construct their own learning. In other words, instead of just, you go sit somewhere and someone pours information into your head, you can go on YouTube and say, I want to learn about, how to build chainmail or something, right? And you can find videos about anything, or not videos, PDFs, anything. You can construct your own learning. So you might say, well, since everybody can construct their own learning and go on YouTube, and a lot of people are doing those things, and there's nothing wrong with that, but what space does that leave for an entrepreneur who wants to, have a business that's based on learning? And the answer there, and the other thing we have to think about is also AI, because, people can, and, there's all different AIs. I personally am really enjoying perplexity.ai, very interesting one that you can have great conversations with. But, a course created by AI is not going to be the same as a course created by a human being with rich insight and deep knowledge and humanity. Bottom line, teaching is for humans by humans. We can use any kinds of, technology as in service to what we're doing, but we should never let it be our master. That's not a good idea, just from a human well-being perspective. So how do we, given all those things, how do we support ourselves and others as entrepreneurs who want to have an online teaching and learning business? And the key there, I think one of the keys is community that I said before, and the other is curation. In other words, anybody can go out and watch a bunch of YouTube videos and learn what they need to learn. But if you're an expert in something, you know which videos they need to watch. And in fact, you probably would be making your own videos, not just sending them out to watch, stuff created by others. I mean, obviously, if you're having a course you're charging for, you can't be charging for other people's content. You have to have original content. So basically, if you've got a lifetime of experience as a human being with wisdom and love, which are, love and wisdom is the energy behind teaching. If you've got that, and you've got a group of people that you're here to serve, how do you build that as a business? So I'm going to share another tool, and I'll describe it because I know a lot of people are listening. So what I have here is an hourglass that my students gave me. It's one of those, glass hourglasses that has sand in it, right? And you want to think about this as a 3-part sort of energy field. Above, at the top of the hourglass, you have your inspiration, whatever your motivation is, your higher purpose, your higher power that's, motivating you to teach. The teacher is the neck of the hourglass. You're creating this narrow, structured filter so that we don't just dump all the sand on people's heads, which is that information dump, right? So that one grain at a time comes through and people can absorb it and process it, and digest it and change. And then at the bottom, you have the receptive people that, your target audience that are ready to learn from you. And when you construct this alignment properly, it creates a magnetic field. If you think of it, it's like the positive pole, the negative pole, and then the magnetic field that arises out of that energy field. So you're creating something very powerful that is attracting the people. Your class is always bigger than the people that actually show up, even bigger than the people on your email list. Your energy is going out into the world. It's that 100th monkey effect, where once we put ideas out there or we put transformation out there, it starts to impact the whole planet in a positive way. So to me, the key to the whole thing is, what's the transformation that you're here as a human being to affect? And, it goes back to my mother, Rebecca. Originally, what did I want to do? I wanted to inspire people to live their best life, right? So I'm really here to support those who are called on to be transformational change makers, in the online space, to support them in their why and their how and their who of making it, and their what, all those things, how they can make a difference, in practical terms through teaching online. That's the mechanism. But there's lots of ways to do it. It doesn't have to be any one way. It could be even just their thought leadership. So I'm excited. I feel very blessed and thankful to get to do this work. I get to meet with incredible people like yourself, Phil, every day, and, hear amazing things and see people really changing the world like you're doing with your podcast.
I thank you so much for that very kind compliment. I take it to heart. I do think I'm at least changing one person's mind at a time. That's how I look at it. If one person tells me they had a great time on the podcast, I know I did a great job. Rebecca, we are coming to the end of the episode, which I hate because I'm pretty sure you have at least another 12 hours worth of knowledge to drop on us in an educational way that is informative and not just an info dump. But I would love to know. I have your 10-year-old self here, an amazing individual, full of energy in life and just willing to give away everything. But what's one piece of advice you would love to be able to pass back to your 10-year-old self?
So 10-year-old self is in the 4th grade. I've had a lot of experience working with 4th graders, hundreds of 4th graders. I taught about energy and electricity. And I would say, the main thing I would say, it's going to sound like a strange piece of advice, and I'm going to have to describe my little thing I'm holding up here. I'm holding up a little eraser that has a goldfish on it. And my saying that goes with this is, follow the live goldfish. So as your 10-year-old self, imagine that you're looking into the pond of your life and it looks kind of muddy and murky. And you're like, I don't know what's going on or what I'm going to do with my life. And now you see this flash of gold, and it's the goldfish, the beautiful koi, that are swimming. Follow the live goldfish. In other words, what are you passionate about? And at 10, you already know what you're passionate about. So when something has energy, when it has movement, when it's the shiny thing that, I don't mean shiny object syndrome. I mean, follow your passion, follow your heart. Don't get stuck in some dead end. Listen, if the goldfish ends up in some backwater stuck, okay, get it out of there. But, your life is going to change in lots of different ways. There's probably the job you're going to do. If you're 10 now, the job you're going to do when you're 40 or 50 probably doesn't even exist yet. But first of all, get as much education as you can in the way that's most meaningful to you, and always keep learning. If I had to say one thing, it would be always keep learning, because the world keeps changing. And if learning means adapting to our environment in ways that promote survival, we're going to have to keep adapting. And believe me, I'm, not 29, and it gets harder to do that as we get older. But the people that I see, and I see 85-year-olds in my community that are still learning and changing and growing. So I think if you adopt that attitude when you're 10, find what you're excited about and learn about that, and keep going. And then you'll always be happy, and you'll always be excited, and you'll always be doing something that you're very passionate about. So that would be my advice.
I think that's some of the best advice I've heard on this podcast. Follow the live goldfish. I love that saying. I'm going to steal it, by the way, or I'm going to be repurposing it.
Just refer back to me.
I will always refer back to you about an amazing guest who taught me this, just about how she teaches others to make even better, impactful courses for their students. But Rebecca, I'm going to jump off the stage here. I want you to let my audience know where they can connect with you, how they can, take their learning to the next level so that they can create this educational academy, if you will, from your framework. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for that opportunity, Phil. Well, I'm holding up my book, Course Design Formula, How to Teach Anything to Anyone Online. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Books, libraries, wherever books are sold. And I really encourage you to read the book. You can get it on Kindle for like $9.99, because that shares all the big ideas. And then once you read the book, you can go on my website, and I believe Phil's going to put all the show notes, below here. LearnAndGetSmarter.com. I've got many free resources you can sign up to get emailed to you. And I have a free meeting on Saturdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern for 2 hours. It's free. It's open to the public. Come share your questions, your excitement, your experiences with teaching online with other creative, service-oriented, like-minded experts and entrepreneurs. And then I also have, I have a self-paced course called Streamlined Course Creation, which you can use to create any number of online courses very quickly using my methodology. I have a 6-month master course that starts mid-January, mid-July every year. Our next cohort starts January 14th, 2025, but, it's every July and January. And that's if you really want to, master the art of teaching online. And the other thing I want to say, and I also have private coaching and consulting. So just write to me at Rebecca@LearnAndGetSmarter.com and let me know how I can help. Probably the best thing to do is for us to just meet and have a free strategy session, and you tell me what's on your mind and in your heart and what you're trying to do, what your vision is. And together we'll figure out how I can best support you. The main thing I want to say too is that teaching online is not just about having a formal course. People are using the course design formula to structure their elevator pitch or their hour-long lunch and learn, or the way they structure their marketing materials. So if you're sharing ideas with other people in a way that's designed to promote transformation, you are teaching online. And if you use the course design formula to structure it, it's going to work really well. So I'm so excited for you. I would love to meet you and to hear what your vision is for how to make the world a better place using your expertise. And I'm here to support you in whatever way is best for you. And thank you so much, Phil, for this wonderful opportunity to connect with you and your audience. And I can't wait to see what everyone does. So stay fabulous, and I'll see you soon online.
Oh my God, I love it. You just, again, more value than I could shake a stick at, Rebecca, in that last little bit. And I can't thank you enough. It's going to be a great reread of this episode, getting the transcript and hearing everything that I may have missed because I was just so, oogled out of my mind with the knowledge that you were giving. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm more of a reading learner than a visual learner and audio learner. So this is going to be 10xing my abilities. So I want to thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure having you on, and I'm looking forward for all your successes in the future.
Thank you so much for having me, Phil. And I hope you enjoyed the book, and love to hear your thoughts.
I will definitely be getting that book and sharing it to my audience. Make sure you check out the show notes down below, because that's where all the links will be. So you can get the book, you can get that free, quick chat with Rebecca to see how she can help you take your course to the next level if you're teaching online or if you're thinking about it. And everything else that she has there will be in the show notes down below. Make sure you take a look at that. I thank you very much for listening, Rebecca. Again, a big thank you for being here. And to my audience and to everybody else listening, remember to invest in yourself.